Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really plunging into something big, a huge shift happening in medicine. We're looking at how treatment is, well, evolving way beyond just taking a pill.
Absolutely.
We've gathered a whole bunch of sources that are showing these completely new frontiers in therapeutics, basically redefining what health and healing can even mean. So our mission for you today, let's unpack these cutting-edge advancements. Let's figure out what the future of health actually looks like. We're talking everything from, like, electrical impulses healing the body to therapy happening in virtual worlds.
And it's really accelerating. The pace of innovation here is just incredible. Things that honestly sounded like pure science fiction not long ago.
Yeah.
They're becoming real options for patients right now, leading to whole new types of medical help.
Right, so we all kind of get the idea of a pill fixing something. That's familiar territory.
Yeah.
But as we look at these newer ideas, let's start there with the familiar, pharmaceuticals. In this changing landscape, what exactly are they and where do they fit in now?
Well, pharmaceuticals are still absolutely the foundation, the bedrock of modern medicine, really. At their core, they're chemical compounds, sometimes made in a lab, sometimes derived from nature. And they're designed very specifically to interact with our body's biological pathways, to prevent, treat, or cure diseases. They might bind to receptors or block enzymes or change chemical signals.
And that covers so much ground, doesn't it? Things like atorvastatin inhibitor for cholesterol, or antibiotics like amoxicillin, even just basic pain relief like ibuprofen. But what about the really targeted stuff? That shows how even this area keeps moving forward.
Exactly. Think about drugs like imatinib, which you might know as Gleevec. It specifically goes after certain proteins in cancer cells. Or metformin, which is super common for diabetes, helping the liver make less glucose.
Right.
It's a massive market, obviously. We're talking about, $1.6 trillion globally, roughly, in 2024, dominated by huge companies, Pfizer, Merck, Roche, Novartis, you know the names. And it's very established, strong regulatory oversight from the FDA and similar bodies worldwide. The key thing here is understanding its scale and, frankly, its inertia, because knowing that helps you grasp just how significant these other shifts we're about to discuss really are.
Okay, so if pharmaceuticals are that foundational, that huge, what are the limitations? Why are we even looking beyond them? What problems are these newer approaches trying to solve?
That's a really important question. Pharmaceuticals, for all their power, often work systemically, meaning you take a pill and it affects your whole body, not just the target area.
Leading to side effects, right?
Exactly. Side effects are a big one. Plus, they don't work the same for everyone. Genetics plays a role. And sometimes there just isn't a good chemical key to fit the lock of a particular disease, especially for complex conditions involving, say, nerve signaling or specific behaviors.
That makes sense. Okay, so let's shift gears from chemistry to something that sounds, well, almost futuristic, electriceuticals. That name alone makes you wonder, are we literally talking about using electricity as medicine?
We are, actually, precisely that. Electriceuticals use very targeted electrical stimulation. The idea is to modulate to adjust the body's own neural or physiological activity.
How does that work, though?
Well, the mechanism is sending controlled electrical pulses directly to specific nerves or muscles. Often, the goal is to restore normal function in places where the body's natural electrical signaling has gone wrong. What's really fascinating, I think, is that we're directly tapping into the body's own electrical language to fix imbalances.
Okay, paint me a picture, like a patient scenario. When would an electroceutical be the right choice? And maybe, what's the biggest hurdle for someone thinking about this?
Sure. Let's take someone with really severe epilepsy that hasn't responded well to drugs. Instead of just trying more medication, they might get a vagus nerve stimulator implanted. Companies like Livanova make these.
Okay.
This little device sends regular, gentle electrical pulses up the vagus nerve to the brain, and that helps calm down the excessive electrical activity that causes seizures. It can really reduce how often they happen.
And the hurdle?
Well, the main barrier for many patients is often the fact that it's implantable. It requires surgery, and there's an upfront cost, of course. Though for many, the long-term benefits, the improved quality of life, can definitely outweigh those initial concerns.
Okay, so epilepsy is one area. What else are these electroceuticals used for?
Oh, lots of things. The most well-known are probably pacemakers and implantable defibrillators, ICDs from companies like Medtronic, absolutely vital for managing heart rhythms.
Right. Classic examples.
Then you have spinal cord stimulators, say from Boston Scientific, for chronic pain that just won't quit. And looking ahead, there's really cutting-edge work. Galvani Bioelectronics, that's a partnership between GSK and Airly, Google's life science arm. They're developing devices to target specific inflammatory reflexes in the body. Even things like cochlear implants, helping people hear again by directly stimulating the auditory nerve. That's an electroceutical too. The market here is growing fast, projected maybe $60–70 billion by 2030. Medtronic, Boston Scientific are big players. Regulation is generally handled like other medical devices, proving safety, moving effectiveness.
That's pretty amazing, using electricity to kind of reset the body's wiring.
Okay, but what about treatments that aren't physical devices, not chemicals, but purely digital? How can software be medicine? That feels like a big leap. Let's get into Digiceuticals.
It really does push our perception, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Digiceuticals are basically digital therapeutics that have been clinically validated, often even FDA approved. Think apps, software programs designed to deliver a specific medical intervention.
How? It usually involves things like algorithms, interactive content, maybe games, combined with principles from behavioral science. They're used to treat or manage conditions, especially things like mental health issues, chronic diseases like diabetes, or even rehabilitation support. It definitely challenges us, to shift our thinking and see software, maybe running on your phone, as a real medical treatment, just like a pill.
Okay, I have to ask about the most maybe surprising examples.
Hmm.
I actually heard about a video game being prescribed for ADHD. Is that real? Could my doctor literally tell me my kid needs more screen time? That's unexpected.
It is real, yes. You're thinking of EndeavorX. It's an FDA-approved video game therapy specifically designed to improve attention function in kids with ADHD.
Wow.
And it went through rigorous clinical trials, just like a drug would. It's not just any game. But beyond that, there's Reset-O, which is a prescription digital therapeutic for people recovering from opioid use disorder.
Oh.
There are platforms like Omada Health. They use apps for coaching and monitoring for managing diabetes or hypertension. And Sleepio, that's a digital program using cognitive behavioral therapy techniques to help with insomnia.
So it's quite broad already.
It is. Even for complex conditions like MS, multiple sclerosis, there are companion apps like MyTherapy that help patients track symptoms, manage medications, and get support. The market here is also growing rapidly, maybe hitting over $20 billion by 2030. Companies like Akili Interactive, who make EndeavorX, Paratherapeutics, Omada Health, they're key players.
And these need prescriptions.
Often, yes, especially the FDA-approved ones, but the delivery method is right there on your smartphone or a tablet, sometimes even using VR headsets, which kind of bridges us into the next area.
Yeah, that's a perfect lead-in. Our final category, and maybe the one that feels most like science fiction, Metaceuticals. So we've gone from apps on a screen. How does the metaverse, how do these immersive technologies become therapy? This feels like a whole new reality for healthcare.
It really does. Metaceuticals are essentially immersive therapeutic experiences delivered using virtual reality, VR, augmented reality, AR, or these broader metaverse platforms.
Okay.
And they often integrate other tech too, wearables, tracking your biometrics, artificial intelligence tailoring the experience, maybe even blockchain for secure, personalized data.
And the mechanism. What's happening to the patient?
The patient is interacting within a rich 3D virtual environment. This space is designed for therapy. It could be for physical rehab, making exercises more engaging, or for mental health treatment, like exposure therapy in a safe, controlled setting, or even just for patient education, making complex information easier to grasp.
Immersive rehab.
Exactly. And sometimes what you're doing in VR is directly linked to real-time feedback from sensors tracking your movement or heart rate. If you think bigger picture, this is really about creating entirely new therapeutic realities. The place where healing happens isn't just a clinic anymore. It can be this constructed, controlled, scalable virtual world.
Can you give us some concrete examples, things that are actually being used or developed right now? And maybe for us listening, what would it feel like to be a patient using one of these?
Sure. For post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, there's a system called BraveMind, developed at the University of Southern California. It uses VR for exposure therapy. So, you might be guided by a therapist to safely revisit or confront a traumatic memory within a controlled virtual scene.
Yeah, okay, I can see how that could be powerful.
Then there's XR Health. They use VR for physical and occupational therapy. So imagine doing your rehab exercises, but instead of just lifting weights, you're interacting with objects in a game-like virtual environment, getting instant feedback on your movements. Makes it potentially less tedious, right?
Definitely.
Applied VR has programs specifically for managing chronic pain. They use VR experiences to help patients learn coping skills, essentially distracting them or helping them reframe their perception of pain within that virtual world.
Pain management through VR. Interesting.
And for stroke recovery, a company called MindMaze uses both VR and AR for motor rehabilitation. Again, making those often repetitive but crucial exercises more engaging and trackable. Even in the mental wellness space, you see platforms like Sensorium Galaxy offering immersive experiences designed for relaxation or mindfulness.
And the patient experience. What's the goal?
The aim is usually to make it highly engaging, personalized, almost intuitive. Therapy might feel less like a clinical procedure and more like an interactive journey. It's still quite experimental in many ways, obviously. Its growth is really tied to how widely VR and AR tech get adopted.
Right.
And we're seeing huge potential for integration, linking these virtual therapies with telehealth visits, using AI to analyze the data coming out of them, maybe using blockchain for super secure patient records. The regulatory side, though, that's still very much being figured out. It's new territory.
Wow. Okay, so we've really journeyed through a lot here, from pills to electrical pulses, software on our phones, and now full-on immersive virtual worlds as therapy. What does this all mean when you put it together for the future of healthcare?
It really sounds like these categories, they're not staying separate, are they?
No, not at all. That's exactly the key takeaway. The boundaries are absolutely blurring. More than blurring, they're actively merging. We're heading towards a future of truly multimodal treatment.
Multimodal, meaning using different types together.
Precisely. Let's imagine, say, a stroke recovery patient in maybe 2030.
Okay.
That person might receive a pharmaceutical drug to reduce brain inflammation. At the same time, they might have an electroceutical device implanted to stimulate nerve repair in the affected area. They could also be using a Digiceuticals app on their tablet to guide their daily physical therapy exercises, tracking their progress. Indeed, they might spend time in a Metaceutical VR platform doing immersive rehabilitation tasks designed to rebuild motor skills and cognitive function.
All at the same time for the same condition. All working together in concert, tailored to that specific patient.
That really paints a picture of this massive shift towards highly personalized combined therapies. It makes me wonder, though, what's the engine driving this? What's making this kind of incredibly complex, integrated approach even possible?
Yeah, that's the crucial question. And a huge part of the answer is artificial intelligence. AI is becoming absolutely central.
Also,
AI is the tool that can make sense of all the data coming from these different therapies. Think about it. Data from wearables, from how someone interacts in VR, from their medication response, from the electroceutical device. AI algorithms can analyze all of that complex information
to do what?
to help doctors understand what's working best for that individual, to predict which combination of therapies will be most effective, to potentially even adjust the treatments in real time based on how the patient is responding. It allows for truly holistic, dynamic, and deeply personalized care in a way we just couldn't manage before.
What an incredible journey we've been on today, looking at these new therapeutic frontiers. From the chemicals in pills right through to virtual reality treatments, it's just so clear that medicine is becoming way more diverse, much more personalized, and definitely more integrated. So as you reflect on all this, all these advancements, what really stands out to you from this deep dive into how health and healing are evolving?
Maybe think about this. How might this huge shift towards these highly integrated, very personalized, often digital therapies, how might that fundamentally reshape things? Not just how we treat diseases when they happen, but maybe how we proactively manage our own wellness day to day, how we interact with our own health data. That whole relationship could really change in the coming years.